So, before we hop into the game, I just want to give a quick recap of the players actually playing in the game. Of course, on one side we have Team Omega with myself and my buddy Chip. There's not really much to say about us, we both suck, no one likes us. But on the other side we have Team VS, which is a really strong defensive team anchored by VS Faucon, who's going by Batman in that screenshot, and VS AirMarshall. These are both very strong defensive players who have a tendency to kite and defend rather than attack, but still each to their own, very strong players. And here we go, jumping straight into the game. Bam! Here we are, Grassy Flatlands, Game 3 of the second round of the Empire Total War International 2v2 tournament. This is actually my second attempt at recording this game because the first time I was an idiot and recorded just my voice and didn't record any of the actual battle. So here we go, second try. So jumping straight into the battle, on this side we have Omega, which is myself playing as USA, and Chip playing as Sweden. This is Omega, and we're facing off against VS, which stands for Vicious. It's a French clan, which is actually pretty good, represented by Faucon playing as Prussia, and AirMarshall over here against Chip playing as Sweden. So Sweden, or actually Chip and AirMarshall, excuse me, are both playing as Sweden, and they have the same factions, whereas me and Faucon, I'm playing as the USA, and he's playing as Prussia. These are two relatively balanced factions. I would say that my lights are better than his just because they can sneak up, but our lines are very comparable. Although I do have some elite lines, his normal line is much better than mine. And so yeah, a couple quick things to note about how we deployed. One very important note that we have to kind of notice at first, and we'll come back to greater effects over the course of the battle, is the fact that I've taken my 4 long riflemen and hidden them all on my right flank, and I've left my Morgans over here. So typically, as you can see demonstrated by Faucon, most players take their lights and they spread them across the entire front side of their army. So his lights are spread 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all over the front of his army. Similarly, you can see AirMarshall and Chip all doing the same thing. So this way they can cover as much area as they can with their rifles. But instead of doing that, I've taken my long riflemen and I'm sneaking them up on the right flank. The great thing about American long rifles is that they walk up hidden, so he has no idea where my long rifles are right now. For all he knows, they could be spread out just like everyone else's across the entire front side of my army, or they could be concentrated over here, or over here, or over here. It's pretty much a guessing game for him, so he doesn't know where my rifles are. He's probably assuming that they're spread out throughout the entire front of my army, because that's what most players do. But that's the beauty of the strategy that I'm employing right here. And so what I'm going to be doing basically is that because I've hidden these 4 long riflemen over here, is that once they pop into view, once he's able to see them when these guys are close enough, I'm going to be sprinting them full force at his 1 rifleman that he's planted over here, I think, or over here, it might be this one. But what's going to be happening is I'm going to be able to get a 4 versus 1 situation with my 4 long riflemen shooting down on his 1 rifleman, and that's a engagement that's very good for me because obviously 4v1 I should get the better of him. And once the initial volley goes off, he'll be surprised, and I'll just push up my flank of my Maryland, my Delaware, my line, my Minutemen, my militia, all these goons over here, and we're going to try our best to plow through this flank and wrap him over. So taking a look at my partner Chip over here and AirMarshall sides, as I said before, they're both bringing Sweden. Chip is my ally, and his Swedish flag will be outlined in blue. Marshall's will be outlined in red, and so they're going to be sitting still the entire game, kind of just facing off. Here you can see his Jaegers have spotted my rifles, and so that's why he's running back. He doesn't really want to take that engagement because, once again, 4v1, not something you really want to engage in. And so, undeterred, I'm going to continue to push my rifles up because I know that even if I do take a volley from his Jaegers, I'll return it with 4 of my long riflemen, so I'm not really worried about him shooting at me because it's 4v1 once again, so I can just overpower him if he stops and shoots. Here, Faucon is kiting back this entire flank, so he's going to be trying to take these 2 Jaegers and turning them to face my 4 advancing long riflemen. But I'm taking my militia over here and I'm kind of blocking the bullets that they have towards these guys, and they're soaking up the damage. They've lost only 11 men off of 2 volleys, which is pretty good actually. Over here you can see that I'm still pushing up with these 4 riflemen. I'm edging them closer to the red line and away from those 2 Prussian Jaegers because I want to be able to get my shots off on this rifleman before he can turn these guys. And so he's continuing to turn these guys, and I'm going to be hopefully pushing up my militia and using these 2 lines to block off his shots onto my lights. Over here, nothing's really happening. I'm shifting my line over to the middle to kind of reinforce this attacking flank. Nothing's really happening on the other side of the map or in the center. Marshall sees the fact that I'm pushing Faucon so hard, so he's sending goons over for support. And then my ally Chip is doing the same thing because he sees that Marshall is sending goons, so he better do it too, otherwise I'll be outnumbered. If you look at the mini-map, it started out with the blue, which is Omega in a straight line, and the red, which is VS in a straight line, but you can already see over here on the left-hand side that I've pushed him back far, and he's already folding over. And so, once I have him folded over completely, because the red line is here, and he can't really kite any farther than that, he'll be at a bad spot, because I'll just keep pushing up with my 4 riflemen, and once again continue trying to take advantage of that 4v1 situation. And so I don't know why he hasn't shifted his 2 Prussian Jaegers more, I guess, closer to the action over here where they have better shots of shooting onto my long riflemen. He's got them over here, which is a bit far from where the action will happen. Here you can see Marshall sending his goons over, all of his goons, and Chip is doing the same thing so that I don't get swamped over here. And so already you can tell that the majority of the action is going to be happening on this side of the field. And so here he shoots with his 1 rifleman onto my guys. He kills only 3 of my men, and I kill 10 of his. Honestly, 4 rifles should be killing more than 10 of his riflemen, but he laid down stakes, which blocked a lot of my bullets, so good move by him. But the thing is, I still have 4 riflemen here versus his 1, or even 4 riflemen versus his 3, so I still have the rifle advantage over here. So what I can just do is I can take these two long riflemen and turn them to face these Jaegers, and utilize these 2 long riflemen in a 2v1 situation. And that's what I'm doing right now, and I'll eventually kill this Jaeger because I have more riflemen shooting on him than he does on me, and then roll over the flank as well. But the one thing I do have to be worried about is since I have more rifles than him over here, he must have more rifles than me over here. And so over here my Morgans is just kind of, I guess, moving to the middle and keeping this guy from bearing down on my flank. But he does have a Prussian Jaeger over here. It just went hidden, but it's right over here, and he can use it to shoot at my line. And I don't really see this immediately, so he's going to get a couple good shots off, but I should be moving my militia over here to protect myself from any Jaeger damage. Over here, I'm continuing to engage in some skirmish warfare. My 2 rifles bearing down on his. His guy is already down to 37 men as a result of the 3v1, actually. Here, my rifles shoot at these Jaegers, but they actually shoot a lot of my own militia in the back, so that was a mistake by me. But I did kill 9 of his guys, so that's good. Here, as you can see, it's kind of we're a bit kind of cramped over here, and they kind of have more room. But, so that's why we need to kind of roll up this flank. And so Chip's he sees that, so he's gonna take his 3 goons, and he's gonna try to get some shots off onto this Jaegerman, or this Prussian Jaeger. I see this, so I move my lineup to protect from counter goon action. So Marshall sees this with his Swedish goons, and he's going to try to move his goons up to shoot at his. But what I do is I move my line up to protect them, and my goons immediately following them, so that if he ran up, they would have got slaughtered by all this gunfire. So Marshall sees that, and he's like, oh crap, so he pulls his goons back before they can get shot. Here, Marshall takes his goons, and he's trying to get some shots off on the corner of my Maryland, which is a good idea, but I shifted just 1 of my goons, and that just kind of deterred him. I think he could have gone in if he wanted to and tried to get some shots, but he did have to be wary of this whole goon horde over here coming back and retaliating. So my rifles are continuing to take advantage of this 2v1 situation over here, and he's continuing to kite back, but he really doesn't have much room to go. Like, the red line is right here, his troops are right here. If he wanted to, I guess he could kite back a little bit more, but there's not really any room anywhere he can go. If you take a look at the mini-map again, you can see just how much we have Faucon folded in. So if we move back over here to Chip and Marshall's side, nothing's really happened because all the action is happening on my side. So you can see how they're even, and as you shift over to my side, you can see how much Faucon is folded in on his side. So here I moved up my militia because I didn't realize his Jaeger was here, and so he popped up and he just shot them all to death. So my militia's dead, he's gone. And so because of that, I have nothing else to cover my line anymore. So I'm just going to move these guys back, hopefully, so they don't take any more fire. Here, I have my 2 riflemen here taking a 2v1 against this rifleman. So this one's down to 16 men. And this one's already routed off the field. So I have the clear rifle advantage right now because I have all 5 of my riflemen left. the 4 long rifles here and my Morgans, but he only has 4 left because one of his is routed and the other one is only down to 14 men. So he effectively pretty much only has 3 lights because one of them is so depleted. And so because of that, he has to do something because I can just sit back here and shoot him to death. And so here you can see Faucon, good move by him. He runs up his goons to try to shoot at the flank of my long rifleman before I can retaliate, and he gets away in time, which is good. Here he was going to run up his line for goons to try to get some shots over here, but he decided against it at the last minute. Here I've moved my line up to get some shots over here to shield for Chip's goons, and so he moves them up and he's going to get some nice shots on this line down to 69 men. 69. And then, but Marshall will return and try to get some shots back onto mine. And so Chip's going to be working this flank while I work the other. Back on this flank, they got some good shots off and he managed to rout off one of my long riflemen. But now his goons are up here exposed, and so what's going to happen is Chip and I are going to run up our goons and get some shots on these guys as they run away. So they take some shots. The damage could have been much worse, but still they took unneeded casualties because of that engagement. Over here, I'm continuing to shield my line for his light dragoons. Light dragoons are very, very good units. However, they die really, really easily. So that's why you need to have shields in front of them. Like I have my Minutemen in front of our goons. One thing you'll see VS do over and over again is like right here, they'll run up their goons without any line infantry support. So they'll run up their goons and shoot at our troops, but our troops will be shooting back at their goons. Optimally, what should be happening is that your troops are shooting, or your goons are shooting at the enemy, but the enemy is shooting a unit in front of your goons. So therefore your goons are taking less damage, but they're still dealing the equal amount of damage. So here Faucon, once again, he's running his goons up without any support. He's kind of inadvertently charged into my Delaware, but we just run up our goons and shot him on his way in. Here I see all of the goons over here, so I lay down stakes with my long rifleman, and Faucon, this was kind of last minute, he doesn't see the stakes, and so he charges straight into them, and so these goons will waver and rout. And the beauty of stakes is they don't just protect against cav, they protect against bullets too, because these guys block bullets, so these guys will have more cover as they shoot out. So here, Marshall, they're getting desperate because their center has kind of collapsed. They have to make something happen, so Marshall's kind of charged into my Maryland. But the thing to note is that the Maryland has very high, the first Maryland unit has very high morale and very high melee defense, so his goons are just going to rout out the field, especially considering I have light dragoons behind him to shoot. Over here, Chip's kind of charged in one, what is he charged in? He's charged in a light dragoon to tie down this entire blob so that him and I can get some chances to shoot. But Faucon and AirMarshall are doing their best to run out of there, to bug out. But as you can see, their centers collapse, so we have a lot more line and lights nearby to shield for our goons as we push them back. Here, I'm going to move up my Morgan's Provisional Rifle Corps. This guy, the Morgans, is actually probably my favorite unit in the game. Not because they're the best rifleman unit or anything, but just because they have such high accuracy, and plus they're American, that they can deal some serious damage if they're used right. Here I'm just using in a 1v1 fight versus this Jaeger, and that's a fight that these guys will win because they are the better rifleman unit than the Jaeger. These Morgans won't beat Ferguson's, they won't beat wind boost Jaegers, but these guys will beat pretty much every single other rifle. Over here, he's trying to move his light dragoons up to get some shots at my long rifleman, which he does. I think, yep, he gets some shots off, and I try to run up my goons to get some shots back, but he gets away in time. I continue running up my goons, but I kind of pulled them back because I don't want them to get shot by this rifleman unit. Here, his riflemen are still shooting at our troops, but his centers collapse, and all we really need to do is take these long riflemen that used to be our center. I mean, they still are our center, but they used to be facing off against his center, but his center has collapsed, so taking these now freed up troops to bear against the 2 flanks of his is the plan. And so here, Chip runs up his goon to get some shots here. I'm slow shielding with my line infantry, so his goons might get shot, but he runs them back, and that's good because now my line infantry will take the fire, not his goons. Here you can see that my line infantry has kind of soaked up the volleys of these 2 line, and he'll run up his light dragoons to try to get some shots. I need to keep pushing the line infantry up. There I go, so that Chip can push his goons up to get shots. Over here, my long riflemen are just continuing to shoot away at this Jaeger, or perhaps even this goon, and these 2 long riflemen are just doing another 2v1 situation against the Prussian Jaeger. And here you can see that our just sheer number of goons that we have because of all of the depletion of VS's goons during their unsupported skirmish play. Since we have more goons now, we can just take all these goons, run them up, and then shoot, and then just route units pretty systematically because we have so many more goons than they do. Here I have our goons, and these guys are unprotected, but these guys have shots, so these guys will get shots off over here. Prussia, he's moved, Faucon, he's moved his units up over here. He realized that my Minutemen and my 2 goons had both shot, so he just moved them up and shot away at my Minutemen because he was not scared of getting shot back. So here, there's a bit of a melee going on here. His light dragoons have been, Marshall's light dragoons have been meleeed by Chip, and Chip is taking this big light dragoon unit and meleeing this light. And so he's pretty much tying everything down over here, and he's going to take these 2 light dragoon units and shoot into this blob. I still have all my light dragoons over here, and they're going to defend my rifles as they shoot away at these light dragoons and at these 2 riflemen. So Sweden once again is shooting at our long riflemen with no shield in front of them. This is partly due to the fact that they don't really have any units to spare to be shields, but even so, these guys will be taking unneeded losses because they don't have any protection up front. Over here, the mass melee is continuing. Prussia is charging in his goons for support. Mine are a bit far away, so they can't really support too well. But Chip has just so many goons over here that support isn't really needed. I'll be running up this line of infantry shortly to shoot into this blob, and my Morgan's Provisional Rifle Corps are moving so that they can target this blob of light dragoons. Over here, I have my line infantry and my line infantry, my 2 line infantry against his. His is much more healthy than mine, but 2 versus 1 is still a situation that I can afford to take. So here I've engaged in a mass melee of my own, 3 goons versus his. Mine will win, and taking my extra goon and charge his light infantry. His rifleman, actually. And at this point, it's pretty much GG because we've killed most of the enemy goons, and we're about to kill the last ones over here. And once the goons are gone, we can just take our goons, shoot these guys in the back as they're retreating or as they're standing to fight. And then once that's done, we can take all of our goons, all of our infantry, and kind of wrap around this flank. So AirMarshall sees this, and he just turns his troops to try to face over here. One thing to note, as soon as AirMarshall saw that they were, I guess, kind of losing on this side, what he should have done is try to make something happen over here. Because one of the key rules of Empire Total War is that if you're losing one flank, try to make something happen on the other. Because the logic behind that is if you're already losing and you try to do something and what you do fails, whatever, you lose anyways. But you're going to lose in the first place. But if you are losing on one flank and you try to make something happen over here and you end up getting an advantage over here, the advantage on one flank can cancel out the fact that you were losing over here because once both flanks are wrapped up, you can turn to face each other. So here, we're just using our goons to clean up. You can see that we have just so many more than him because Chip has 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have 1, 2, 3. So we still have 7 light dragoons compared to their 0. And we're just using our goons to get around the flanks, get some good angles on their line, and just continue to shoot them to death. Over here, I left 3 of my units over here to clean up these last 2 Prussian line, but 3 versus 1, it's not a fight that he's gonna win. And so once these guys are taken care of, I'm just gonna take my 2 line infantry units and my long riflemen, run them back over here so they can join in on the fight. So yeah, it's pretty much a good game here. We're just going to take the rest of our troops and continue to wrap Marshall's remaining troops up. I'm going to cut straight to the results screen so you guys don't have to sit through 5 minutes of us wrapping it up. Thanks to everyone for a great game, and hope you all tune in later.